So we're a couple of weeks into 4.8, and just about everybody's doing the same thing, trying to find the best way to make money. Or you're grinding for blueprints. If that's your main focus, I'll save you the trouble. This isn't the video for blueprints. You might have heard that there is a really good opportunity to earn a lot of money in the Pyro system with hauling. You might have heard it from me or some random guy in the chat. Well, I'm here to show you today how to do just that. How to survive in Pyro and how to make millions hauling for Redwind line haul. Now, you've likely also heard that Pyro is too dangerous to be hauling. It's too risky. There's too great a chance of a player ruining your session, killing you, what have you. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. If you don't have any self-preservation genes or a little bit of paranoia that's kind of naturally built into you, this might not be the career path for you, because you do have to go into this with a modicum of paranoia, with at least a minimum expectation of keeping your head on a swivel, being observant to other players that may or may not be in the area. I'm going to have this video broken out into several parts, from the intro, from how to get into low pop servers, kitting your ships out to be a bit more stealthy, to the actual missions themselves. So look down in the description or the little timeline thing on YouTube to go where you want in the video at any time, and please ask all the questions down in the comments below. That way, if I miss anything, I can hit it in the next guide video. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do, if you have this privilege, is to get into the lowest population server you can. This is where I often encourage people to add each other as friends. A lot of people added me, but I'm just one person. And sure, there's a good chance that if you join on me, I'm probably in a pretty low pop server, if there's been one available with all the people on my own friends list. Go down, right click on each name to see how many people are in that shard, and aim for the lowest you can. This is also why I encourage you guys to add each other as friends down in the comments. Put your usernames down if you're comfortable doing so. Add each other so you have more options to look at to see who's in the lowest populated shard, because when you reduce the amount of players, you reduce the amount of risk. That isn't by any means to say there won't be any risk if you go low pop. It just reduces the chance that you end up in a server full of player killers. I'm usually pretty happy if I'm landing in a shard that is below 200 people. Pyro is often less traversed anyway, especially with everybody on the rep grind on Kovalex and Ling family over in Stanton, or out in Nyx doing tactical strike groups and trying to grind intersect. There's a lot of incentive that pulls people to the other systems. Not a lot of people are messing with Redwind. Well, at least they weren't until word got out about how valuable these hauling missions are. Even at the trainee level, you're looking at about 100k per mission, and these can be very quick. So the allure is going to pull more and more cargo haulers in, and potentially with that, more and more PvPers that like to go after players, whether they're pirates or just murder hobos. So I echo again, head on a swivel. Everywhere you go, you need to be scanning the area, checking for other players, looking at what ships they're in. If they're in a combat vessel, you go see a Hornet, an M80, or something that somebody is in to go shoot other things in. It's a pretty good chance that is not a safe person to be around, so you got to figure out what you're going to do next. Are you going to try to sneak in nice and stealthy? Are you going to nope out and maybe try to deliver somewhere else? Are you going to just go ahead and change servers if this person is a problem? That is up to you. These are questions that I face myself and often have to work around as well. Now, with regard to making your ships more stealthy, I am going to show you guys again erkul.games, the DPS calculator. This is a fantastic website where you can pick any ship of your choosing, whether it's a Hull A or a Golem Ox or a Taurus, Raft, Hull B, Hermes, C2, whatever it is. This is where you can play with your components and actually see your signature layouts as well. Now, let's go ahead and zoom this in a bit so it's a bit easier to see. But right up here at the top, you got your EM right here at 14k, your infrared at 4.9, and your cross-section, which is basically the biggest portion of your ship, usually top down, and how much of a signature you're putting out there to the outside universe. Now, a cross-section of 1k is tiny, but that EM is pretty high. On this chart, you can mess with your pips, just like your ship in-game. You can kill your life support, you can bring your radar down to 1, your engines down to 1, kill your engines and shields, and see how low your signature drops. Everybody should get familiar with how you can run your ship in sort of a low power mode, or what I call going dark, which basically is the minimum cooler, the minimum radar so you can see hostile threats, and minimal power to your engines, everything else turning off. You can use this method in so many ships to reduce your signature drastically. Now, I would take this a step farther, and what I've done is actually changed all of my components out to be a lot more stealthy. Our full power signature right now is 5.4k. It was 14k if you remember beforehand. What we've done is we've taken the laser weapons off, which have a much higher signature than your ballistics do, and we put little Deadbolts 1 on. It doesn't matter. It could be the GT series gun, it can be the little buzz saws, it could be anything size 1, or you can just take the weapons off if you just don't care. and that'll keep your signature from your weapons very low. And of course, you can kill your weapons at any time to bring that signature all the way down to its minimal value. Now, looking at the rest of these on the Ox, it's pretty easy to just do a full stealth build with everything that you can buy. You can get all these components, the Shimmer, Delta Max, Vapor Block, the Zephyr Quantum Drive, all available in stores. And if you're not familiar with how to use Erkul, I have linked in the description of this video my guide on this very website. So go check that out for more details there. Here's another quick popular example before we move on of a ship that I recommend everybody get their hands on because you can rent it and because you can buy it for about 3.3 mil. And that is the Raft. What you're looking at here is its original signature as you get it stock. 43k in your EM. That's really high. And here it is full power with a stealth build at 16.6k EM. Take that a step further and run dark and you're all the way down to 2.5k EM. This roughly, put simply, is about the distance it takes for someone to detect you, but actually a little bit better. If it's 2.5k EM, it won't become an automatic alert to somebody else's radar until closer to about 2 kilometers. Now, some of you might be saying, yeah, but cross-section. Yes, if the threat is actively hitting their scan ping to actually put out a scan to see what's in the area. Cross-section is no longer a passive trait. It is an active detection signal. So it's not just something that pops up. You have to actually ping for ships to see their cross-section, and it only lasts for about 6 seconds or so before it goes away. A skilled pirate that's really trying to hunt ships and looking for stealth builds, which are probably going to become more common as more people learn this sort of thing, are going to be actively pinging more often. That isn't something you can really avoid at that point. That's also why you want to make sure you see your threats to assess whether or not you're willing to take the risk and try to sneak in or get away. All that said, though, this is the type of thinking and mindset that goes into being successful in Pyro. And this will actually translate to other systems too. You take these same skills, the same way of thinking to Stanton or Nyx, and you're going to find yourself a lot less likely to be at the mercy of other players. All right, now let's get into one of the most underrated parts of this game. And I say underrated because there are so many new players that don't even know this is an option, and that is ship rentals. A lot of you are going to have your starter ships, and some of them might have some good cargo capacity. You might have anywhere from 2 to 8 SU of cargo on hand, or maybe you have yourself like a Cuddy Black or something with around 40 to 50 SU of cargo. But that's not really enough to really push the envelope and make the kind of money you can make in Pyro. And that is where these rentals come in. You can rent from several areas. You can rent from Vantage Rentals in Loreville around Hurston. You can rent from the Regal Luxury spot in New Babbage. You can rent from Teach's Ship Shop. There's also places around Crusader and Area 18 where you can rent. But the main two that I would go to would be Vantage Rentals in Loreville, which has the widest selection, and then the Regal Rentals if you really want to get your hands on a Connie Taurus, which with that firepower and the cargo capacity it has, plus the 24 size 2 missiles, it's a fantastic ship for having a little bit of teeth of your own when you're dealing with possible Pyro threats, whether it is an NPC threat that might be around your drop-off or other players that are deciding to make things a little bit more complicated. And this also dovetails into something that we'll talk about when we discuss actually getting into these missions, which is a concept I live by in Pyro called the Dark Forest Theory. Some of you might be familiar with that, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So these ship rentals, you can grab the Raft, the Hermes, the Taurus, and they can all be rented from 1, 3, or 7 day periods. And these are real-time situations, so you're actually dealing with actual real-life days, not in-game days or any other weird kind of thing. So if you're getting it for 3 days, you have 3 calendar days to actually use this ship and make it worth your while. Given once you hit member rank with Redwind that you can make 3 to 4 mil per hour, the cost to rent being 160k a day for the Hermes down to about 70k a day for the Raft is a no-brainer. On top of that, now, with the way they've done things with insurance, you can actually customize your rentals with your own components. Now, there's a trick I would use here. I wouldn't insure the components to your rental, just in case you forget about it, and then there goes potentially a crafted component that you really love, a good quantum drive or something, or just an expensive quantum drive you already had. The way around that, to avoid losing those items, is leave that quantum drive, whatever it is, or whatever parts you're using, insured to another ship. As an example, for the Raft, Taurus, and Hermes, I was running my Chimera drive that I kept in my M80. I left it insured to the M80. That way, if there was ever any concern with the other ships, all I would have to do is claim my M80, and I would get my Chimera quantum drive back that I could then take off and put on another ship. It's my way of ensuring, pun intended, that my really good components, or my speedy way of getting around the system, because Pyro is quite large, especially once you're dealing with member and you're going station to station across the entire system, the value of an upgraded quantum drive is quite high. On that note, if you want to know some good quantum drives to get your hands on, the Colossus is my favorite for size 1. It's a great balance of speed, fuel cost, and cooldowns and all. It's the industrial grade A. Once you get into size 2 and 3, my focus shifts to the civilian side. The grade A Chimera drive for size 2, which you can find over at Krill 1, Cousin Crow's down on Orison, possibly several other places. Check Erkul or SP Viewer for places you can buy them. And then if you happen to be hauling in a bigger ship like a Cat, a C2, or an Ironclad like me, then I am suggesting the Erebus drive. You can get it at Arc L1 for about 340 or so thousand. It is pretty pricey, but it is so fast and efficient. The acceleration stages, top speed, cooldown rates, it is the GOAT of purchasable size 3 quantum drives. If you somehow already have your hands on military grade quantum drives, then enough said. The XL1, the VK00, and the TS2 are all great. Although I do think the Colossus does edge out the VK00 because it's a little fuel hungry. All right, this next part is huge because it's a problem that I've run into that several people I know have run into. And that is when you get into your hauling grind, you go down to an elevator and it doesn't work. It doesn't go up or down. It's glitched. It's broken. Somebody put a freaking cruise smoothie on it. Now the elevator's busted. You want to avoid committing to your cargo hauling grind until you've checked to make sure those elevators work. So what I do is I'll either go out my Golem Ox or my M80 like you see here, and I will scout out the locations where I know I will be sending a lot of the product. Now, starting out, you're going to be spending most of your time around Gaslight and the Pyro 5 system, dealing with Pyro 4, dealing with Ignis. You're looking at places like Ashland, Chala Beach, Saccharin's Plot, Sears Canyon, avoid Fallow Field. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it would be a really good idea to go down and actually check to see if these elevators work. Sneak in there, scan around, see if there's a bunch of player-wrecked ships everywhere, see if there are any active players do anything over there, look at the kind of ship they're in, make your decision as to whether or not you are going to handle the threat, avoid the threat, or maybe team up with the potential threat. Who knows? That's kind of the dream team idea. You find another cargo hauler, maybe you guys can tag team missions and knock them out. I veer toward the side of caution, again referencing the dark forest theory, which I'll go ahead and just explain for you guys real quick. I first learned about this from the 3 Body Problem series, fantastic sci-fi books, you should go check them out. But essentially what this is for the sake of your own safety, it's better to assume ill intent in the other person and deal with them as a threat rather than taking the chance of them deciding to deal with you first. The actual dark forest theory as described in the books focuses on the idea that you're in a massive dark forest surrounded by other hunters and you yourself are a hunter. You don't know if these other hunters are friendly or dangerous, what they might know, what they might do later. So when you encounter another hunter, it is better for you to kill that hunter rather than be killed yourself. And that is a mindset that I use in Pyro most of the time, especially if it's a combat ship. But even if it's not, if I'm in a position where I could potentially disable and put down a threat and then be able to utilize the elevators and keep doing what I'm doing, that's going to be the route that I choose. Especially because whether by dumb luck, a mistake, or bad intent, the other person could end up breaking the elevators that you're using to try to get your rep grind on. And there's nothing more frustrating than your reliable system falling apart and you having to pivot or move or change servers, whatever it is. So that is where my mindset goes with it. It is up to you guys how you handle your adventures in Pyro, but I always advise caution. While it's nice to imagine innocent till proven guilty, when it comes to hauling in Pyro and not knowing who you're around, guilty till proven innocent. It's going to save you a lot of trouble. Once you've finished your scouting and you see that your elevators work, now you can get into the missions. It's time to get the grind on and fly through so you can start making that money. The last PSA I'll get out is Fallow Field. Don't go there. You'll recognize it as the place with the rocks all over the place swirling around like some weird alien thing. That whole area is one big collision bug. You'll notice a lot of damaged ships there, a lot of cargo on the ground, maybe even some cargo that looks a little enticing. Don't fall for it, because as you get close, you too will join the pile of ships. If you have a mission to Fallow Field from anywhere, I always suggest you accept the mission and then abandon it to cycle that mission out, because then there's a chance that that mission will come back but take you to Saccharin's Plot or Chala's Beach or Canard View if you're going out to Terminus. Unfortunately, a lot of the rookie level missions do require you to travel a bit further than you would like. Regardless of the path you take, if you see Fallow Field, just don't waste your time. It's a huge bug. You can't even see where the elevators are, and every time you go down there, you're going to blow up and get pissed off, and it's just better to avoid it altogether. In fact, any missions that end up going to places that you don't want to go, it's not a bad idea to accept them and then abandon them to cycle them out. It does not adversely affect your rep. You don't have to worry about being penalized there, but there is a little bit of a cooldown wait. Some of these missions, like the 301k junior missions that take you from Gaslight to Saccharin's or Ashland, those I think have about a 10-minute cooldown. You know, it can be a little while. Now, typically in that case, at least 2 of the 4 tend to be to a place that you can actually go to, as long as you made sure your elevators are working, so you can still knock them out, making that 300k per mission. All right, all those warnings and caveats out of the way, let's talk about the actual path. Some of you might have seen the mission that starts the Redwind rep tree in Stanton. It says Redwind seeking new haulers. If you've already done it, that's fine. I still, though, think you need to go to Checkmate or Monarchs to do the one that's over there. It is the Seeking New Haulers mission over around Checkmate or Monarchs that seems to give you access to the planetary category of missions, which is separate from the others. And I know several people who have not been able to access the planetary side of things, which really helps you with your grind. Around Gaslight, where I love to work because it's so efficient, it's only 4 gigs away from the main planetary body, so very, very easy travel time for different size fuel tanks, small, medium, large ships, all of them. Several of my org mates and friends have not had access to the planetary side. At first, I thought it was because I had completed enough of the cargo recovery missions in the mercenary tab with Redwind to get the standing that maybe unlocked it. But I don't think that's true. Shout out to Edric in the org, who seems to have found that it's the Seeking New Haulers mission that's over at Checkmate that gives you the full mission unlock for Redwind and Pyro, whereas the one in Stanton for some reason seems to be either bugged or limited in the number of missions it gives you. So if you haven't started the Redwind grind yet, I really hope you go to Pyro. And again, Planet Monarchs or Checkmate. Go to those 2 places and look for the Redwind Seeking New Haulers mission there to start your journeys. That'll then unlock your trainee missions and then subsequently your rookie, your junior, your member, experienced senior, everything else you already know about. Once you've got that starter mission done, you can move around whatever parts of Pyro that you prefer. I suggest, again, Gaslight to Pyro 5 system. Now, it might become inundated with haulers and players trying to do this grind as they've seen this video, and I'm happy to help everybody, but that's also going to be a consequence of this, as more people are going to know about it, so more people might flood in to get this done. That said, you can blitz through Trainee really fast doing this really simple mission where you go from Chala's Beach to Sakharin's Plot, which are like less than 20 kilometers apart. So you can stack those missions and run them back and forth right there using a Hole, an Ox, or whatever ship you have, rented or owned or otherwise, to knock those out really fast. They're really low SCU count, and again, they're like 20 kilometers apart from each other. Just as you see in this video, when I popped my scan, I caught a Hole B kind of chilling up in the atmosphere a little bit. You want to always be aware. And then there were also some hostile NPCs as I was cruising over to Chala's Beach to do the drop-off, but I knew because of myself running dark in the Golem Ox that the NPCs wouldn't be able to see me. They were about 4 kilometers away, and I had about a 1 kilometer or less detection signature. So I just stayed low, got to the drop-off, dropped everything on the elevator, sent it down, and went about my business. The next part's a little tricky. The rookie missions seem to either take you down to Pyro 5 locations or to Pyro 6. Actually, it's worse than that. It's both. So you'll have a mission where you pick up cargo from Gaslight, but you have to run it down to Sakharin's Plot, but also Kennard's Place, or Kennard's View, which is all the way out in Terminus, or Pyro 6. So you can either choose to stack some of those rookie missions and try to knock them out together. It doesn't take long to get from rookie to junior, or you can probably just run those training missions between Chala's Beach and Sakharin's over and over. That might end up being faster if you can do them in mass and just keep the little train running until you get into the junior rank. Another option is that you could do this with the interstellar missions. If you have the cargo capacity, depending on what ship you're using, you can run a couple of these pretty well-paying interstellars to blitz through your rookie rank into the junior rank. Now, once you've made it to member, that's where the money can really start to flow. Double check that those elevators are working over at Sakharin's and Ashland. It is always important, regardless of it being an external freight elevator or a ground or surface elevator, to interact with the terminal first. Touch the elevator terminal before you put any cargo on it to avoid it disappearing and wasting a lot of your time and creating unnecessary frustration. But once you've got that down, you can pick up these 4 300k missions that vary anywhere from 40 or 50 SCU per mission up to 300 plus per mission. So again, feel free to cycle them, accept and abandon to see if you can get one that's less. For all hauling missions, and this probably exists as well for Kovalex and Ling family, when you do accept one of the 300k missions, I would go for the one with the least amount of SCU demand. That way you go ahead and grab it, and it also has the chance of cycling a change through the others. Typically, the destination will stay the same, but it might have gone from a 327 something SCU mission down to like 150 or 110 or less than 100. So take your time when you're grabbing these missions. It's always going to be these 4 from Gaslight. They are probably around Pyro and other areas as well. Again, the run from Gaslight to Pyro 5 system is just way more efficient than going across the other planets in Pyro, so this is where I like to work. And as long as it's Sakharin's or Ashland, I am going for it. Now, I do have that ironclad privilege. You guys have already seen me running this thing around, making money with it, and I love having the oxen side, like you see here, allowing me to transfer the cargo rapidly from the ironclad to these surface elevators, and it's always dealing with 8 SCU boxes as the bulk of it, and then 4s or 2s or 1s to make up whatever leftovers there are. That does take a little while to get through junior up to member. You're making so much money doing it with missions that are so easy that I found it hard to not have a good time with this. It was fantastic. And a little bit of the rush of whether or not, you know, I was in danger always stood out. So unfortunately, there's a bug with the ironclad. No, separate than what you guys have already been used to. And it's one that Malice and I encountered. When you would look at the ironclad, it would trigger the sound of somebody like quantuming into the area. The sound that you guys always hear when you quantum to a planet, that sound should come through if somebody is quantuming to your location. Like if somebody else has targeted saccharins and you're there and they start their quantum to you, you'll hear that sound. If you randomly hear that sound, and it's not just your ironclad or your own ship doing it, you also got to test this. Kind of like look at your ship. If you hear the sound when you're looking at your ship, look away and then look back at your ship again. See if your ship is triggering it. If not, and you hear that noise, you're about to have company. So it might be a good idea to prepare to bail out, prepare to a fight, maybe rapidly finish, because usually they're going to drop in, 30 kilometers away from the destination most of the time? And you might be okay. It might be an innocent other hauler, or it might be an early end to your session if things go wrong. Eyes and ears open, my friends. It'll keep you alive a lot longer out there and reduce that stress. One other tip, when you're downing these surface elevators, or when you're sending them down rather, if you get too close to them, it might trigger them to bounce back up. It's not that the elevator's broken. It's similar to your own elevator inside your hangar, where if you stand in a little yellow zone, it says obstructed. So if it does bounce back up, just go back to the terminal, send it down again, and make sure you keep your distance from it to let it fully start closing the doors and turn in everything. All right, guys, if you made it to this point of the video, or you're just zipping around finding the points that you want to listen to, thank you so much. I hope you guys have enjoyed this guide. Please like, share, subscribe, all the things. Show it to your friends to help them get their journey going as well, because now we're about to talk about member rank and some tips to make this way faster than even the first time I did it. And this is where the money really starts to pile on. So to my surprise, and probably to a lot of your surprise, and the whole reason I made the Make Millions video you might have already seen on my channel with this is where you start to see the 745k station-to-station missions. Up until member, you're pretty much just dealing with planetary deliveries, maybe the occasional station one, but it's rare and doesn't pay out all that well compared to these. Now you can go station to station, and now it's time to think about whether or not stations have external freight elevators or if they don't. I will go ahead and show you this trick on the map real quick as a way to discern if the place you're going to actually has an external freight elevator. It's really easy. We'll use Nick's Gateway as an example because it is one of the stations that does. If you grab this little blue bar and pull it down, you see a loading dock symbol. Any station with a loading dock symbol is an external freight elevator. I can tell you by memory that it's both gateways, Stanton and Nick's, which sometimes in your mission descriptions will show up as location to address. But then you also have Ruin, Checkmate, Obituary, Gaslight, our main station that I love so much, and Megumi Refueling, which is way up here on the other side of Stanton Gateway. The other ones, Rat's Nest, Endgame, Dudley Daughters, Rods, Starlight, which Starlight looks like it should. That's another problem. It doesn't. And also Patch City. These all do not have external freight elevators. You have to go inside, but you're dealing with such small quantities of cargo that it's really a no-brainer. In fact, I bet we can actually look at some of these right now. Sometimes if your scroll isn't working, you can just drag this bar, or you can even cycle out of contracts and back in, and then see if these will actually scroll properly again. Here are the 300k missions. Here's an example of one that's really high, 294 SCU from Gaslight to Pyro 5, but then this one, 99 from Gaslight to Saccharin's Plot on Pyro 4. You can see just how crazy different these will be, and if we take this one, it'll probably change that first one, just like I was saying. Let's look at that first one again. No, not by much. It changed it, but now it's 300. Back to the big money makers, which are the stellar missions. You do have the 532k missions, but if you scroll down, you'll see the 745s, and right now we're only seeing 2, but there's usually like 6 or 7. Now here we have several of our money-making missions here, and I wanted to point this out as we're thinking about it with the gateways. Stanton Gateway appears to be labeled properly now, but location 1 address, that is Nick's Gateway. If you pull out to your map and scroll out, you should see that gateway highlighted. There it is. So we got Nick's Gateway. This is where it'll either say location 2 address or location 1 address. That is Nick's Gateway, and that's important to recognize because you might have noticed that on the right it says Stanton Gateway twice. There's one scenario where this actually has a consequence you have to be careful of, but first off, big thank you and shout out to Taser M on the YouTube channel with the comment that saved me so much time, took me from making about 1.8 to 2 mil an hour up to almost 4 mil an hour with this one trick. Sounds like a gimmick, right? So all of these multi-pickup missions still have a bug that actually works in our favor for now. Eventually, CIG is going to fix this, so don't get attached. But for now, all of the cargo is going to be at the last location on the list. I stress you use the list over here in the mission text, not the one to the right where it says primary objectives, because sometimes these get thrown around and Stanton Gateway might be on the top and the bottom. But over here on the left, you would have seen location 1 address or something. It'll tell you the actual destinations here on the left in blue. So just reference this side to save yourself trouble. All of this cargo is going to be at Rat's Nest, all 31 SU of it. 31 SU, like that's a lot for 745K. The 532K missions are the same, except usually there are 2 pickups, and they're all going to Ruin. All of these missions go to Ruin, except for the variations of these missions that actually collect from Ruin and go back to the other stations, which we have one here. These typically are carrying more SCU. These ones are a bit higher on average. But this also allows you to create a loop. You take all of this junk to Ruin, and then you can collect all this waste from Ruin to take to the other stations. However, if you do this, I strongly suggest bringing up one mission at a time and separating that waste so that way you don't mix it up, because it still matters that everything is coded to its drop-off. So even though it's all waste, if you try to take the waste that's meant to go to Dudley and you take it to Checkmate, it's not going to count. So I bring up the missions up the elevator one at a time. I set it aside, I organize it. That way you can inventory it. You can be like, yep, that's 33 SCU. That goes there. The 38 SCU is going to Checkmate, or whatever the case is. That is how I avoid that headache. For all the other ones, and the ones that I recommend you actually do, they're all just going to Ruin. So it doesn't matter. You can throw it all in one pile and then just shoot it all off to Ruin Station. Whether you use the external freight elevator or you go inside to be a little safer and use your internal elevators, it does not get easier than this. All of these that have multiple pickup spots, you know, we got Stanton Orbit Starlight, then you have Endgame Rods Checkmate. All of these, it's going to be at the last place. So you're going to go to Checkmate for this one. You're going to go to Starlight for this one. You're going to go to Rat's Nest for this one. You're going to go to Rat's Nest again. That's 1.5 million in just 2 missions at Rat's Nest. That together is 69 SU of cargo. That's crazy. So these are the missions, my friends, where you can easily get up to 4 mil plus per hour, depending on how you deliver these. We did these in a Taurus, making right under 3 million in 45 minutes with my first run. We replicated this again with the Raft, which we finished on our live stream. We did this again in the Hermes with even more contracts, filled it up to the brim, like 490 SU. We had boxes all the way to the back door. I even had to get out my M80 to escort my org mates into the station to be able to turn it in, which we did. Shout out to the OSR group, Engie Frog at the helm, and a bunch of people that came out to keep them safe as we had many threats at Ruin that day. It's a little coincidental that the only time that I've had that problem is while I'm live streaming, so, you know, take that with what you will. But we got that 4 million or so worth of cargo turned in, and everybody got paid and got rep. I think we all still came out with like 800K a piece, even though we shared the mission between like 4 or 5 people. It was awesome. But pretty much any ship you got hauling around the Taurus or Raft size or bigger is going to just own these missions. In fact, you can run some of these with your Hull A's or your Golem Oxes. You know, you have 64 SU of cargo and you're looking at 31 SU missions. So even if you're doing them one at a time, that's 800K one way. That is already better than the whole sea missions we all missed and loved back when we were able to run like Terra to Pyro Gateway for 700K with 2,000 SCU. Yeah, these kicked those missions in the face, man. It's so good. And it only gets better from here. I found out from somebody in the chat on the live stream that the experienced rake missions have similar missions like this that pay about $1 million a piece. You're looking at about $1.7 million in senior and even higher than that in master. It just gets sweeter and sweeter. And by this point, if you've gotten to member and you're raking in this money, I've pretty much taught you everything you need to know. You can take what you've learned here and go on to bigger and better missions, keeping all the same practices and hints in mind to keep yourself alive and have a really sustainable way to earn revenue in the verse now that we're all back to ground zero. That is all I have for you guys. Please leave your feedback down below and help me get this video out to as many people as possible. I love doing these guides, being able to help people get on their feet and really jump ahead. And then after a wipe, after something big where we're all back to the start and all trying to figure out what to do, I know that these are even more valuable, especially to the newer players out there. So get out there, make some money, have some fun, guys, and I will catch you out in the verse. Take care.